Okay, over here on the passenger side, it's a much simpler installation, and we're really just going to start by removing this factory vent panel. And just like on the driver's side, I do have speaker wire run over here, and I'm going to take a second here to just kind of tie this up and out of the way. Okay, so this panel is just more or less an overlay over a portion of the vent panel. I can't get it all the way in there just yet. We are going to have to drill a few holes, and we're going to have to make a few cuts. We're going to be drilling some holes in this panel, one for the little pull knob here, the little arm there that opens and closes the vent. So we'll have to drill some holes in both sides of this little bracket here that holds that shaft, and then we'll need to drill some screw holes, some mounting holes for the existing screws in there, as well as at least one predominantly down here at the base. There is no screw hole there, and I think I'm going to need one. So it's just going to cover up this area down here. It's just a cover, an overlay. So like I said, we're going to start by pulling this factory vent panel out of here. Here we go. So I did put some adhesive weather stripping on the back of this, so it's a little bit stuck on there. But we got this piece out, so now we can take everything over to the workbench and do the majority of our work over there. Okay, so like I mentioned, this kick panel speaker assembly is really just an overlay over the bottom half of the vent panel. Now, I mentioned before we are going to have to do some cutting and some drilling. I mentioned these holes here for the shaft that opens the vent door. We're going to need to drill those into our new speaker panel. We're also going to have to cut this little ear off of the vent panel. You can see how this one on the speaker is just tapered on both sides. On the vent panel, it's tapered on one side, basically the side facing the floor. This side, we got kind of a square shoulder. So we need to cut that at an angle to match the angle on our speaker panel. So first thing we're going to do is actually get this shaft removed. It's real easy. You just lift it off of the little nub there, and then it just slides right out. Alright, so with the rod out, this cut that I'm going to make here, cutting this little ear off, this I'm going to have to eyeball it to start with. This part's going to be kind of a cut and fit and cut and fit. I may get it on the first shot, I may not. But I just got a silver Sharpie here. And I'm just going to make a little mark there and come across the top. And we're just going to cut that out. The remainder of the cutting and drilling, once we get this panel overlaid onto our vent panel, then we can just flip the whole thing over and transfer mark our bolt holes. And we're also going to have to notch out, we're going to have to duplicate this notch right there. The dash actually fits down into that little notch. This is a factory GM piece. They allowed for ample clearance with this notch. So when I cut it into my new panel, my speaker panel, I'm going to do sort of a cut and fit and test and cut and fit and test because they allowed so much space there. I can reduce that space and get a little bit of a cleaner look by cutting and then test fitting and then cutting some more until I get it just right. That way I won't have such a big open gap in that area, and it'll look a little bit cleaner. It's kind of hidden. It's not something that you see. It's not right in your face, but nonetheless, it's not much work, and we'll get a little bit of a cleaner look out of it. So that's what I'm going to do. So first thing, let's cut this little ear off here. So I have found from previous experience installing these kick panel speakers, the best tool for cutting this plastic is really a small coping saw. You could use a hacksaw. You could use an angle grinder or a Dremel tool with a little cutoff disc, but keep in mind that it's spinning so fast that it might actually melt this material, and it just makes it harder to remove. So a small coping saw works well for cutting this plastic. One other thing I should mention, I've done this twice before. Once on a previous project of mine, once on a project, a truck that was my friend's truck. On my friend's truck, when we sandwich these two panels together, this surface here on the speaker panel was not flush with this surface here or up here, and that was because this boss, this bracket for holding that rod, was too tall. We actually had to cut that off. So there's a 50-50 chance from my prior experience that this whole thing may need to cut off. I'm going to try and leave it, but if it has to come off, it has to come off, and it's not a big deal because they give you, it's already molded into this panel, and once you put it on there, it looks clean and you can't tell that this part's been cut off. So let's get started cutting on this little ear, and then we'll keep going. There we go. And you can see this panel was once red. If you watch that video of the installation of these panels, these are painted. I used a special Krylon paint specifically for plastics and painted them black to match the rest of the interior of the truck. So let's test fit our new panel. So far so good. Yeah, that looks real good. I don't think I'm gonna have to cut off this whole entire little ear, this whole bracket. Seems to fit really quite well. That bolt hole there is lining up. This one back here is lining up. Let's see, we got a little bit of a gap. Well, if I push down on it, it's not too bad. I think we're going to be good there. So now, so we don't have to cut this off, but we are still going to have to drill our holes into the new panel for the rod and for some screws, and then cut out this notch right there into our new panel. So let's get everything lined up again and mark those cuts and those holes, and then we'll cut and drill. So just using some simple pony clamps, I've got the new kick panel, speaker panel attached to the original vent panel. So now all we got to do is flip it over. That hole is already drilled in the new speaker panel. This one over here is already drilled. So we have a hole right there. We got a hole right there that needs to be marked. And then of course, this hole in here for our rod, that hole there for our rod, and then our notch for the dash. I'm going to draw the whole thing, the whole notch on there. But like I said, this is going to be a cut and fit and test, and then cut and fit and test again if needed. I'm not going to cut all that out right away. I'm going to cut it about halfway and then test it, and then if I need to cut some more, I'll cut some more, and it'll just go in that fashion like that. So take all this apart and we'll start drilling and cutting. All right, back inside the truck, we're going to test fit our new kick panel speaker assembly. I did make the one little notch up there. So first notch, let's try it out, see if we can get it in place. So not enough. We're still having some interference right there. I'll probably have to cut it back to about that point, because the whole speaker assembly needs to go back further towards the firewall. Well, let me see. Carpet's getting in the way a little bit. Yeah, I don't want to force that too much. So, I'm going to make a mark. Right there. So we need to cut it lower and further back. So we'll go back to the workbench and do that. Well, through the process of editing, it's only been about a half a second since you saw that last clip. The reality is it's actually been about 2 hours since I filmed that last clip. And that whole time I've been fitting this panel. And I was checking my cuts up here, and the panel just did not seem to fit right. Something was going on. And so I just had to slow down, take a step back, and try and figure it out. Well, what I figured out was that the bolt hole right here in the plastic kick panel did not line up with the mounting hole in the side of the truck into the metal. It was about a ½ inch too high. So, doing a little bit more figuring, that hole in the metal, in the kick panel, in the side of the truck, is original. So are the vent panels. Those are original GM pieces. They're not original to this truck, but they are OEM original GM pieces. And so, like I said before, I have installed these types of kick panel speakers in 2 prior projects. One was my project, one was the project of a friend of mine. But I've installed these twice before on these old Squarebody C10 trucks. And what ended up happening was I had to trim some material off the very bottom. I know you can't see it in the video right now, so I'll show you what I'm talking about. But I had to trim basically a ½ inch off the bottom and kind of reshape the bottom of this panel. And now it fits just fine. But like I said, I didn't have to do that the other 2 times that I installed panels like this. I don't know who the manufacturer is of these plastic kick panels. On the speakers, on the back of the speakers, it says custom auto sound. So what I don't know is, did custom auto sound also manufacture these molded plastic panels? So the stickers on the back of the speaker, I'm assuming they manufactured the speaker, but I don't know if they manufactured these molded plastic panels. So, in the prior 2 occasions, I don't remember who manufactured those kick panel speakers either. This was an eBay purchase. The seller that I bought them from was not the manufacturer. So, but not a big deal. It still came out real nice. But I'm just making this short little clip here to let you know that that's something that you might have to do with your project. So if it's not fitting right, just stop and take a good look at it. You may have to trim some off the bottom. The bottom of this panel may not be molded perfectly, so you may have to custom fit it. And so I thought this was just kind of a plug and play sort of deal over here on the passenger side, but it did take some custom modifications. So I just wanted to let you know that. But like I said, it fits real well now. I'm happy with it, and we're just about done with this project. The only thing we have to do left on this side is to wire up the speaker and then put all our screws back in. I'm going to drill 1 hole down here and put another screw down there, and then we'll be done. So let's get started on that. Well, I had a little scare there for a minute because I soldered these connections, these two wires together, through the opening for the glove box. So now they're kind of looped around, but I just remembered the reason I soldered them is because they're plugged in on the back of the speaker. So all I gotta do is unplug them, run them back behind there, and now we're good to go. So the wiring's all finished up. I'm gonna tidy it up a little bit. I'm gonna loop it up underneath the dash there and kind of make it look a little bit cleaner, but that's about it. So let's get this panel, let's get the vent panel and the new speaker panel reinstalled. Okay, we're gonna start by putting the vent panel back in place because there's 3 screws here on top that are not shared by the speaker panel. All right, let me go get the little push rod for the vent here. That'll be it. Ready. There we go. All right, that still works. Tidy up this wiring. There we go, we're done. I am going to put one more screw down here at the bottom, right down in this area. I'll do that off camera. All I'm going to do is just drill a hole, get another stainless screw and a stainless washer, put a screw down there, and that's it. All right, so we're all done mounting these kick panel speakers in place. The fit came out about as well as it could. You saw how much work I had to do here on the driver's side of the truck. Again, my truck is the non-AC cab, so no factory air conditioning. These panels, or specifically the driver's side, is for a truck that does have factory air conditioning. They come as a kit, they come as a pair, but the difference really lies with the driver's side panel. The passenger side panel is the same whether you have a factory AC cab or a factory non-AC cab. So it came out about as good as I planned. I had a few little hiccups, a few things that I didn't have to do when I've installed these speakers, these kick panel speakers before. But all in all, it came out real nice. I'm happy with it. The speakers that are in there, you saw they're made by Custom Auto Sound. I assume that's the sticker on the back of the speaker. I've mentioned before that I'm not an audiophile. I think I mentioned it in the video, in the dash installation video, where I fabricated the mount for those small little 3.5-inch speakers that are in the dash. Those are made by Sound Ordnance, and it was a bit of a custom installation. You know, those speakers aren't fancy, and I'm not an audiophile, so I don't necessarily have to have the best speakers there are. I'm not going to buy a $400 set of speakers, but the ones that these kick panel speakers came with do leave a little bit to be desired. They're a little low for my standards, and my standards are really not that high. So at some point in the future, I may replace those. I may honestly just go to Walmart and get some Pioneer speakers. I think for the price, they're just fine. But you know, I'll worry about that later. For right now, they do work, and I want to show you that. So let me turn this on. So it's hard for me to show you the speakers actually working, but they do work. And I'm going to have to adjust the fade and the balance and things like that. Right now it's set at 0, 0, so equal volume going to the front speakers, which are in the dash. The kick panels are wired to the rear speakers, quote-unquote rear speakers, even though it's all kind of in the front. So those little 3.5s in the dash don't have hardly any lows to them. Mostly mids and highs. These speakers down here don't have much load to them as well, but it's more than what these in the dash have. So I'm going to have to adjust the fade and the balance and some other parameters to get the sound just right. But they work. I'm happy with the installation. It's nice to get those kick panels covered, because all you saw there before was the sound insulation, the fat mat that I installed a long time ago. So it's nice to get those kick panels covered and kind of finish out the interior a little bit. Makes it look a little more complete. So that's it for this video, or this video series. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Go check my Facebook page. All the photos, every photo that I've ever taken of this project or other projects, the chopper projects, anything, all those photos are on my Facebook page, facebook.com/milkcrate82. And we'll have another video coming up here pretty soon. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to purchase next, but whatever it is, I'll set the camera up and we'll get some shots of that. So once again, thanks guys.